open-world sandbox RPG of the early 2000s. However, first appearances are deceiving. Morrowind is actually an RPG about reincarnating yourself to overthrow an order of free gods worshipped collectively as the tribunal because they betrayed you in your past life in order to abandon their mortality, with one of them, Vivek, impaling you through the chest with his gigantic penis sword. Meanwhile, another man betrayed by the tribunal has lived on past death, driven mad with divinity, and also has a piece of pottery permanently stuck to his head. Inside a steamy volcano mountain, he plots to overrun the continent by influencing the dreams of bitter, dark elf nationalists unhappy with the state of political affairs, turning their dreams into reality as their face cavity collapses, grows a mouth proboscis, and eventually blooms into a full set of eyes and tentacles, ascending as a hunchbacked cephalopod hellbent on genociding all other races off the face of Morrowind and restoring their native homeland to its former glory. You, however, know nothing about this, or of a Nerevarine prophecy you will one day fulfill. You're just a prisoner on a boat left to rot.
Oh my god, it looks so ugly.
Your crimes by order of the Imperial Emperor. In exchange, you'll be working
oh my god, these character models are so bad.
Agent who, over the course of the story, is dishonorably dismissed from his post because he can't contain his crippling crack cocaine addiction. This might sound like a lot to swallow, but when you consider that a person swallows on average 5 clockwork spiders each year in their sleep, this doesn't seem so bad. Aside from the main story, the lore and background of the Elder Scrolls universe is thoroughly explained, documented, and communicated to you throughout the course of your play. Most of the lore for Morrowind was written in a single week, while the main author went on a
I don't think it's true though.
Binge.
I think it's kind of like the chocolate bar thingy.
It shines best. Morrowind is the most authentic alien setting ever put in games, and second only maybe to Planescape Torment. When everything is so bizarre, nothing is bizarre. Everything put in front of you is so genuine and sincere, you never question it. So maybe the best showcase of a game and the best way to communicate why it's so amazing is just telling about all the crazy shit I encountered. Like, let's start with the main diet of Dark Elves. Eggs. Really fucking big eggs, which are laid by gigantic Quama queens under the earth. Sometimes people steal eggs from the mine. They're killed on the spot without trial, since food is precious in this region. If a Quama queen dies, the hive fails, and the local villages depending on them undergo a famine. There's technologically advanced dwarven ruins everywhere, complete with clockwork spiders, mechas, and Jewish ghosts, which keep reminding you about the 6 million, but no trace of the dwarves themselves. Why? Because they built God. And since building God is a pretty big endeavor, it's anybody's guess where they went, either to a completely different realm or instantly vanished from existence. There's a temple in the game with an imprisoned Daedra, bound to a religious relic. He's completely chill, calm, domesticated, unless you provoke him, of course. If you keep taunting him, he finally snaps and says, "After I kill you, I will rape your corpse. Don't worry, I'll be gentle." There's one wizard in the game who cloned female copies of himself to have his own daughters. Which
they can never say that nowadays.
Concubines. And if you don't think that's the hottest shit ever, get the fuck out. Morrowind is my fetish buffet. Case in point, a quest where you're tasked with escorting an Argonian slave back from the docks to her master in another city. Immediately upon delivery, the owner and his guards murder and rip open her stomach on the spot, because it turns out you've just been an accomplice for a local drug cartel, helping them bring a body packer whose stomach was filled to the brim with sweet cocaine. There's always politics and intrigue between the great houses of Morrowind, Hlaalu, Radorn, and Telvanni. While legally the Empire occupying Morrowind doesn't permit slavery, they can't really stop the Telvanni, since they're incredibly powerful and omnipotent ANCAP wizards, and they don't like guests. That's why there's no stairs in Telvanni wizard towers. If you can't levitate like a normal person, you're fucked out of luck. Do you know how you get promoted in Telvanni society? You kill your rivals and assume their position. The court of law there automatically presupposes that if an argument was had,
what year was this from?
Murder the opposing
early
party,
2000s?
Your argument must have had more weight than your enemy. In fact, you can hover up to the Telvanni tower at any point, murder the resident mage and his servants, and you won't be punished for it. It was their fault for having low security anyway. Besides, one of the servants sprayed blood all over my chest, clearly violating my NAP. With enough time, sweat, and cum invested into a faction, you can climb through the ranks up to the point where you can build an own fortress. Of course,
if this is Elder Scrolls 3,
out of the ground.
how the fuck does Elder Scrolls 1 look like?
bureaucrats determined to kill you off or make your life a living hell before they
That must
grant
be
their
so
sponsorship.
scuffed.
Except one. Crassius Curio, counselor of House Hlalu, gives his endorsement for nothing more than
Oh,
a
it's
kiss on the
2D.
cheek. Because he's a fan.
And Elder
He's even
Scrolls
offered
2?
some of the books you can read in game.
Is
Most
that
of them
3D
banned from
or
the public
2D?
eye for being the equivalent of erotic fan fiction. One of the most famous and sauciest of these is the real
2D
life
as
of
well.
Queen Baron Zaya, where Crassius raunchily
Like
asserts
OG
that the first Queen of
Doom.
Morrowind took fat Khajiit dick and, bemusingly, complained how painful barbed cat penises were to insert. There's even an in-game
Oh, like
explanation for
OG
why your
Doom.
character, Venerability,
Oh,
can
that
save and
kind of
load the game,
2D.
since we, the player,
Oh.
can influence the metaphysical force known as Chim in the Elder Scrolls universe, whereby we can live through different timelines and outcomes in parallel. It's for this reason that Vivek, who has reached understanding of Chim, never agrees to fight the player, since no matter how strong or powerful he is, he knows that you can assault him an infinite amount of times, and eventually succeed. But when you're done perusing the story, how is the actual game? Absolutely fucking broken. It's stable 90% of 50% of the time. It's functional, but the combat system is insane.
So less
Forget
than
any notion of
50%.
fair play or balance. If you can exploit something, you should, because the alternative is getting tapped by a bandit carrying an enchanted twig that paralyzes you for 10 seconds straight per strike. My first experience of combat was quite traumatic. I attacked a tiny scrib creature, thinking it's impossible to lose against something so
Thinking
shitty.
Summoner
Instead,
was the
it
worst thing
paralyzed me
ever.
in place and
In
proceeded to slowly
Oblivion.
nibble me
Holy
to death
shit, it
while
was so
renewing the
bad.
paralysis whenever it got close to wearing off. Bravo, Todd. The game mechanics are bullshit. Either you adapt to it and bask in its ridiculous glory and enjoy yourself, or you refuse to learn.
It was
Die
your
horrible
choice.
and write
Yeah, but
angry
people said it
complaints
was
about
fine.
on a Korean basket weaving forum. For
And then I
example,
played on the
potions
fucking
and their
super
effects in this
difficulty
game
and it wasn't
stack.
fine.
So let's say I used alchemy to make 200 potions of intelligence. I could simultaneously chug all 200 potions of intelligence and gain infinite knowledge for a few seconds, during which time I'd quickly tab back into my inventory and use alchemy, which scales off intelligence, to craft several thousand restore fatigue potions using bread and rice in a single nanosecond, which would be so amazingly powerful and potent that their individual market price would be enough to completely buy out the entire store catalog of most merchants. And if in the off chance I chose to use them instead, I would have a permanently full bar of stamina for the next few years of my physical life. In a similar manner, I could do this with other effects, such as Fortify Strength, whereby I can smash the final antagonist of a game with a weapon so hard that he and the weapon would cease to exist. But if you just happen to find your friend's Morrowind game open and want to run a funny prank on him for sleeping with a family dog, you can make a potion of paralysis using the same method. From the moment you
I wonder how
drink
much
that potion, your
research he
character
does.
will be paralyzed for
Finding
about
all these
3
things
hours.
out.
When he comes
I mean,
back and
obviously
asks why
he
his
Googles
character
it, right?
can't move, laugh,
All this shit
and
is
ask
the-
him why the dog keeps crying at night. You can use this time to explain him why bestiality is immoral and illegal in most countries, and how the doctor said your dog's orifice will never fully heal. The game's design offers you a lot of freedom to mess around with. The custom spell making in particular can be abused to make some disgusting spells, such as the ability to camouflage yourself perfectly, 100% for 1 millisecond, and steal something right in front of a merchant. But just because they couldn't see you physically taking the object, they can't establish causality between the events happening around them. It's a great game. The environment and atmosphere really capture a very alien landscape and culture, while the dialogue and text keep you occupied for hours on end. Gameplay aside, Morrowind could be described as an early 2000s slave trade RPG, and when you get tired of running around, doing errands and reading shit, you can always download mods or make your own with a construction set and reduce the quality of your experience.
Even further.
A warm thank you to the many members of Hlalu Merchants Guild, graciously funding these videos against their better judgment.